All right, guys, so we got to talk about how the Catholic Church, they seem to be fed up, right? Specifically with the woke progressive nonsense coming from the Democrat Party, right? It's to the point now where they're basically stripping people and institutions of their right to be Catholic or to call themselves Catholic because they're not following the book, right? They're supposed to be following, right? And there are some things that, are just simply non-negotiable if you're going to call yourself a Catholic according to them. Like, for example, when it comes to abortion, right? And how the Democrat Party has basically endorsed a woman's right to abortion, aka take away life, which is strictly prohibited in the Bible, right? As thou shalt not kill is the 5th commandment, okay? But for whatever reason, Democrats are gun-ho about this supposed right that they say that women have. So much so to the point where they have committed acts of violence over this supposed right, okay? And the Archbishop of San Francisco basically said, you know what? We're not having this, okay? As he basically stripped Nancy Pelosi of her right to receive communion over her support for the Democrat position on abortion rights. And Nancy Pelosi didn't really like that too much, to say the least. Take a look.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi going public with her reaction to San Francisco Archbishop banning her from taking communion. Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone last week instructed the priest in his archdiocese to bar the speaker from receiving communion. On today's Morning Joe program, the speaker asked why the archbishop hasn't denied communion to other local politicians who share her views. Pelosi says it's not about religion, it's about the politics of abortion.
So these same people are against contraception, family planning, in vitro fertilization. It's a blanket thing, and they use abortion as the front man for it while they try to undo so much.
Nancy Pelosi is a faithful churchgoer. Politico reports she attended Mass in Washington, D.C. over the weekend and did receive communion.
Trinity Church in Georgetown going up and receiving the Eucharist just 2 days after Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone announced that the Democrat would be denied communion in her California parish. In a letter to church members Friday, the Archbishop wrote she is not to be admitted to Holy Communion unless and until she publicly repudiates her support for abortion rights and confess and receive absolution for her cooperation in this evil in the sacrament of penance.
Yeah, so that is Nancy Pelosi basically denying the Archbishop's commands for her not to partake in communion until she repents for her support of an evil sin, right? And of course, the mainstream liberal media came out here to defend Nancy Pelosi, even if they had no idea what the hell they were talking about in her defense. Take a look.
Welcome to The View, y'all. The abortion rights battle is starting to blur the lines between church and state. The Archbishop of San Francisco is calling for Speaker Nancy Pelosi to be denied receiving communion because of her pro-choice stance. He's one of the priests who also called for President Biden to be denied sacrament. This is not your job, dude. That is not up to you to make that decision. What is the saying? It's kind of amazing. But what is the point of communion, right? It's for sinners. It's for sinners. It's the reward of saints, but the bread of sinners. How dare you? How dare you? That is, if Pope Francis says that that's the issue. But
yeah, so I'm not a Catholic, but even I know that is in fact the Archbishop's job is to tell people who can and cannot partake in communion or who can and cannot be a part of the Catholic Church based off some of their public behaviors, okay? And if you don't like it, then, hey, don't be Catholic, right? You can still be Christian, but you just can't be Catholic. And some people, again, like Whoopi, are saying, well, you're trying to mess church and state. And it's like, no, that's actually not the case, right? The argument for why abortion should be illegal is the same argument for why murder is illegal, right? Again, but our laws in regards to murder that's not grounded in religion. That's grounded in basic human rights and morality that we all kind of agree with, okay, for the most part. But, you know, hey, Nancy Pelosi doubles down that she is very much Catholic, despite clearly being in support of something that is just not compatible with the Bible or Catholic doctrine. Take a look.
Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi, who recently was denied communion by the Archbishop of San Francisco and I think at least 3 or 4 other dioceses, she says she is a good Catholic in this soundbite we're about to hear, but at the same time, Catholic doctrine is you have to oppose all forms of abortion because human life must be respected and protected absolutely from the moment of conception is what the Catholic doctrine is. Here's Nancy. Watch this.
A woman has a right to choose, to live up to her responsibility. It's up to her doctor, her family, her husband, her significant other, and her God. This talk of politicizing all of this, I think, is something uniquely American and not right. Other countries, Ireland, Italy, Mexico, have had initiatives to expand a woman's right to choose. Very Catholic countries. I'm a very Catholic person, and I believe in every woman's right to make her own decisions.
So Nancy Pelosi says, hey, I am very much a Catholic and a good Catholic at that, despite her political and probably personal beliefs as well, too. I mean, let's be real. Being in contradiction to something that the Catholic Church simply will not tolerate, right? But it's not just her who is having her Catholic status questioned over her questionable beliefs. There was a woke middle school, right, that decided to fly some BLM and pride flags in support of inclusiveness and marginalized people that got their Catholic status stripped because of their refusal to take down these flags after the Catholic Church said, you can't fly these flags outside of your school because it is in direct contradiction to what the Catholic faith is supposed to stand for. Take a look.
Good afternoon, Maria. Well, what's flying on the flags here at this school has sparked a debate about what it means to be Catholic and who gets to decide. Beneath the American flag, a pride flag and a Black Lives Matter flag have been flying outside the Nativity School of Worcester for more than a year. The school teaches about 60 boys in grades 5 through 8 from both Catholic and non-Catholic families. The school says the flags are, quote, to remind our young men, their families, and Nativity Worcester staff that all are welcome here and that they are valued and safe in this place. However, Bishop Robert McManus, seen here in file videos, says the BLM flag has, quote, been co-opted by some factions which instill broad-brush distrust of police. And the LGBTQ pride flag, he says, runs counter to church teaching that sacramental marriage is between a man and a woman. In a statement, Bishop McManus questioned if the school should still be called Catholic, and some parishioners leaving midday mass at the cathedral agree.
Yeah, I agree with Bishop McManus and what he's doing, and I think all bishops across the country should be making statements for all Catholic schools who are doing the same thing.
If they want to continue to call themselves a Catholic school, then they should follow his guidelines.
But the school points out it does not answer to the local bishop, but rather to the Jesuits, an independent order of the Catholic Church headquartered in Rome. The school says it provides tuition-free education, mostly to students of color, with funding from private donations. This mother, who says her son is applying to be a student here, thinks the school should stand its ground.
And we're in 2022. It's like we all come from different backgrounds. We have different beliefs. Let's just be kind to one another and let people be.
Neither the school nor the diocese would do an interview with us today. In his statement, the bishop indicated that both sides are still talking about this issue. Live in Worcester, David Bieniek, WCVB News Center 5.
Yeah, so to give you guys a little bit more information about the arguments from both sides here, because this Catholic school argues that, hey, we are flying these flags not as an endorsement of any organization or ideology. They are flown to support marginalized people, right? Again, this is what they're saying, okay? And for whatever reason, they feel like this is better and not divisive than flying just, I don't know, the American flag and saying, hey, we support all Americans. But hey, apparently flying the American flag nowadays to the left is controversial, but the pride flag and the BLM flag is not. Now, the Bishop McManus that issued the letter telling them to remove these flags or else you can't call yourself Catholic, they're saying that they took issues with the symbols because they embody specific agendas or ideologies that contradict Catholic social and moral teaching. So he took issue with the Black Lives Matter flag because he said, quote, a specific movement with a wider agenda has co-opted the phrase, promoting an agenda for schools with principles that are queer affirming and trans affirming, as well as disrupting the nuclear family. He said pride flags represent support for gay marriage. He says flags that say end racism or we are all God's children would be far more appropriate for a Catholic school, he wrote. Yeah, so I agree with the bishop here, okay? If you're going to call yourself a religious school, right? Hey, we are a school, okay, that is using the Catholic name, okay? We're saying that we are a Christian school, okay? Maybe you should fly flags that, one, are inclusive of all people, but two, also are not in direct contradiction to the Christian faith, okay? I'm just being real. I don't know why is it that people have this push to try to mix Christianity with things that are obviously not in agreement with Christianity, right? I mean, things that are in direct opposition to Christianity. It is very clear in the Bible what God thinks about a certain lifestyle, okay? There's no questions about it, right? You can ask questions about a whole lot of things in the Bible. But that thing right there, you cannot ask questions about, right? It is very clear in terms of how God feels about a certain lifestyle, okay? And for whatever reason, people want to continue to try to make the compatible not compatible. It is not compatible. When you fly that pride flag outside of the school, what you're saying is that we're supporting and promoting this lifestyle, okay? That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. And there's no other way to square it, okay? Just like if I fly an American flag, right? I'm flying an American flag to say, hey, I support America, right? When the woke revolutionaries fly the Ukrainian flag, they're saying that they support Ukraine. When you fly a flag, you're saying that you support that flag and what it stands for and whatever people or ideas that it represents. That is what you're doing. So to sit here and try to say, well, we're doing it to support marginalized people, that's BS, man. It's BS. Because as a black person, a so-called marginalized person, right? I can tell you right now, the BLM flag does not represent me, right? You're not representing me. You're not supporting me when you fly the BLM flag, okay? I have nothing to do with that, right? And I'm pretty sure some people that consider themselves to be gay or homosexual, lesbian, whatever, may say that, hey, the pride flag is not a representation of me because the pride flag has basically been co-opted by the woke among the alphabet community, right? There's actually a civil war going on in the alphabet community. If you want to fly the flag, fly it, but don't sit here and say, well, we're a religious school, right? That we are, adhering to these principles and these doctrines that we're supposed to believe in, the book that we're supposed to follow, when clearly you're flying flags that are opposed to that ideology in the book that you're supposed to be following, okay? I'm just saying. And it's okay. That is totally fine if you don't want to do that. You have the right to do that, but you can't raise money off of this idea that you're following these principles and you have these values when you don't, right? I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. So to me, hey, I just find it interesting how the Catholic Church specifically has been going after Democrats in the woke left, trying to mesh their religion and their beliefs together with things that are clearly not compatible. And that is what they should do, right? If you want to maintain some semblance of what you say that you should believe. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.